I welcome you with all my heart, all my soul, my spirit, my body. I love you all as my family, and some as close as myself. The way that I've learned teaching recently really started 8 or 9 years ago. I left a boring Advaita enlightenment and entered the world of energies, bliss, and love. And the kind of love that is demanded is different. It's not like love for a child, love for a parent, love for a friend, even love for a lover. It goes deeper than that. It's like the deepest love you can imagine for a lover, with every fiber of your being screaming out to be in that person's presence, where you just want to drop in front of them, touch their feet, and worship their existence, because you feel God in them. You feel the life force in them. You feel the descent of grace that washes away all concepts, all sins, and all desires except to be in the presence of your beloved. It takes that kind of intensity. And then what happens is, at a certain point, when you're with your beloved, whoever it is, a lover, Jesus, a guru, a teacher, and you're loving him or her with all of your might, something happens and your heart opens. Your heart opens all the way, and a new kind of love is revealed. A love of a cool breeze blowing through your heart as your heart is totally open. And what is experienced from your heart and in your heart. There's a profound sense of relief, like you've come home. Some may still feel sexual tinges in that state, and romantic tinges from the heart in that state. But the state has basically changed from love of a person to openness of God in yourself. This whole path is all about God. Some say it's tantric, the way I teach it, because I talk about the use of sexuality to awaken the various centers of the body. But it's really about love. And any sexual tinges are purely secondary, even for those who experience full body orgasms. The orgasms can start in the heart, in the vagina, in the testes, even the third eye, or the gut. Grab your whole being in convulsions of bliss, which appear to be sexual to the outsider, but the person that is experiencing them knows it has nothing to do with sex. It's all about love and being open to the deepest love possible. A love that grabs you, possesses you, caresses you, sweeps you off your feet. I'll give you an example, maybe some examples. The person I know that has the deepest powers in terms of moving energies and using it to do something to heal is Deeya. Deeya is an extraordinary person I've known for 11 years, but her mastery of the energies is matchless, unparalleled. The last time she was here, she told me to touch her on the top of the head. And when I went to touch her on the top of the head, about 50 little volcanoes, little tornadoes of energy jumped up into my hand, and I felt it. It wasn't electricity, it wasn't electrostatic. It was a different kind of energy. It was the kind of energy one feels in one's body as chi or as prana. But somehow she was able to concentrate it in her scalp and make it swirl around in 50 little volcanoes, 50 little twisters, I should say, because I felt them rotating. And when I sat with her on the side of the golf course, we both disappeared and we were both washed over by this amazing red energy, just held in stasis. The rest of the world disappeared, and I felt such immense power. And when she left me with that power. It elevated my energy game a couple of steps. But I'll tell you a story about her. She was staying in a hotel near my house in Northridge several years ago. I think it was 2014. And she was downstairs in the laundry, washing some clothes, when she saw a cricket on the floor, was missing a leg, the left rear leg. So she carefully scooped him up on a piece of paper, put her in the hand, and took him outside through the doorways of the back door of the hotel and put him in some bushes there to be safe so he wouldn't be stepped on. So she went upstairs, did some stuff, and came back to get her clothes, to dry them. And she saw that same cricket there, missing one leg, the left rear leg. So she took her up into the room, the cricket, and made a little box for it to stay in. Put some food for the cricket. Tried to heal the cricket using her energies. This went on for 3 or 4 days, but the cricket died. So then she tried to bring the cricket back to life by running energies. And she did that for a couple of days. And she wanted me to help her. So I did. I went along with it. Ran some energies through my heart, down my hands, aiming at the cricket. And she said, "Ed, do you think we can bring Jiminy back to life?" And I could feel her heart. She desperately wanted the cricket to be brought back to life. She said that when she was in the laundry room with the cricket the second time, she felt such love coming from the cricket to her. Well, when you're in a state like Deeya was in, you feel that love all the time. And you don't know whether it's coming from you or it's coming from somewhere else. And I said to her, "Deeya, I know that the energies could bring the cricket back to life. I know it can be done. But I think you and I don't have what it takes in terms of knowledge of the energies to bring it back. Just running energies into the cricket won't do it. It's like pumping blood into a corpse and hoping it'd come back. I said it would take a lot more than what we know, perhaps specific rituals done by a shaman or a mystic. So we tried for a couple more days to bring Jiminy back to life. And Deeya took Jiminy back with her to Scotland in a little matchbox. They put her on her altar there. That's the kind of love it takes to open you up to the life force and to God. Another time, there was a visitor who came to see Deeya while I was there, a healer herself. She had a young daughter. And she had left her car somewhere, and she wanted me to go with her for some reason. I think it was to get something to eat. And Deeya didn't want me to go. She started crying when I was heading for the door. I felt torn. She wanted me that much to stay, that she was crying, that I was leaving just for an hour to go with this woman and her daughter for dinner, I believe it was. And it had something to do with moving cars too. And I know this woman didn't want Deeya to come because she thought Deeya was acting a little strange and she was frightened for her daughter. I got to tell you, Deeya was always acting a little strange. But as I was leaving, Deeya started crying, and she fell to the floor and grabbed my right leg by the ankle and said, don't go, and was crying hysterically. I felt in an absolute dilemma because of the situation. There was some reason I had to actually go to the car, to find the car or something like that. So I had to go. It was not just to be with this other woman, to go to lunch, because I would have invited Deeya to go. But the woman didn't want, because Deeya was acting weirdly, she thought, and she was afraid for what her daughter would see. And I actually had to pull myself away from Deeya. And she was holding on to my leg dearly until we got to the door, hotel door. And I pulled myself away and closed the door. And she laid there on the floor, crying. That's the kind of devotion you have to wake up truly using the path of love and bhakti. When I came back an hour later, I brought food for Deeya. And when I opened the door, she was still laying on the floor by the door, blocking the door. And I had to push the door open and step over her. And I had to pick her up, carry her over to a chair, and show her the food. But she had been crushed by my leaving her. But anyway, I hand-fed her. And eventually, she got returned to normal consciousness. But this is the kind of extraordinary love you have to have in order to really find God within yourself. Because when you feel God that strongly and you love God that strongly, you love anyone that strongly because you're loving God in that person, God weakens his will to remain apart and joins you in divine love. God shows you his form. God shows you his love. God shows you his energies. That's 2 stories about Deeya. That brings me to Angela. In 5 months, because she was so loving of me, she had a Kensho experience, an awakening experience. Awakening experiences can be small and they're called Kensho, or they can be major and they're called, I forget what the name of them is, Satori. Hers was a Satori, but it slips away when confronted with the need to function in the real world and concentrate on the real world, because when you have a Kensho as strong or a Satori as strong as she did, the world doesn't seem real anymore. The only reality feels to be God and your spiritual body inside of you. So now she'll be working for some time to coordinate these 2 states, the enlightenment state, where the world is seen as fake, unreal, and the only reality is the God within you and your love for another that feeds that God within you. In 5 months, Angela was able to do more than I did in 27 years, practicing self-inquiry. Part of it is I never knew what I was doing. Every one of my teachers had a different way of doing things, so I changed ways of doing things at lots of different times. But with Angela, I knew where she was and how she had to be moved in order to get where she's gotten. So because she was with me and I knew what to do, I knew all the pitfalls, all the drawbacks, and I just encouraged her to love more and more deeply and surrender more and more deeply. The trip was very short, 5 months to the first awakening, and a major awakening. So much about love. It has to be so overwhelming love, attachment with surrender, worship. Otherwise, it'll never do anything except purify you gradually over the years until you're able to love like that. Love like that is frowned upon in our society because it destroys the self. It destroys the personal self. The personal self is lost. Not really lost, but it feels that way. It feels like you're going to lose all your boundaries, all your attachments, all your knowledge, and you become dumb as a rock because concepts don't mean anything to you anymore. All spiritual concepts become empty, and you know nothing. And the only way to exist is to be open to reality the way it is, as opposed to your conceptual models. The conceptual models just begin disappearing. Your understanding falls away. Love destroys your understanding because you're deeper than your mind. And you see things deeper than the mind can see and the mind can know, because it can only know concepts. The mind can never free you. The mind can never grasp who you really are. Only you can do that by sinking underneath the mind and into the self, the inner state of light and love and energies. That is your beingness. And you learn more and more to descend into that beingness and feel the grace there, the love there, the energies there, the bliss there. And you always want to, like Angela, fight your way back into it. But you can't do it that way. You have to relax into the energies within you, into the beingness and love within you. It's letting go. It's letting go. Like you can see Janine doing right now, progressively relaxing into herself, listening to my words. Now, at first, the enlightenment is confusing. It always is. Because you're losing every bit of understanding you had of the world and of yourself. And you're experiencing a new kind of experience without the mind. And the mind keeps wanting to come back and to take hold of you and your life around you and recreate the mundane life of everyday living that you've lived in for the past 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. It wants to bring you back to the security of ideas, morality, concepts, truth. And if you're advancing along the spiritual path, you think that the best means to become enlightened is to follow your own truth. Even if that interferes with your relationship, you must always be authentic and follow your own truth. That's absolutely wrong. Your own truth will always be wrong until God shows himself or herself to you and washes you clean of concepts. Your own truth will be stubbornly held on to, like you always have to live your own truth, no matter how damaging it may be to relationships. But you'll find that love triumphs all, even searching for your own truth. All my life, as long back as I can remember in college. I mean, I can remember back before that. But the first time I really fell in love with a woman, I realized how totally devoted I could become. I didn't know what to do with it at that time. I was shy. I didn't know how to speak. And my life has been filled with these kinds of totally devotional love relationships with certain women progressively throughout my life. And each time it has felt divine because I felt a bliss beyond anything. I saw colors beyond anything within me. But it wasn't until Janet came in 2009 or 2010 that I felt a reciprocation and the intensity of the love for which she loved me and I loved her. We were both totally devoted and surrendered to each other. Our hearts merged. We both went into deep samadhis. We both simultaneously experienced being at the feet of God, literally as in a vision, even though we were 1,800 miles apart. We both felt we were at the feet of God and God was stepping on us, and we just wanted God to step on us and crush us. It's like we wanted to die for God, die for our love of God. We just wanted to support him whatever way was possible. We spent hours on the phone or on Skype every day. And she felt whole body orgasms all day long that we were on the phone, and even after we left. Just all I had to do was say, I love you, Janet. I love you. And she felt them. So they weren't sexual, although I don't think she ever separated in mind the difference between sexual and non-sexual. But it was actually God inside, the life force inside, that was giving her thrills, because she was definitely seeing what her deepest nature was, which was energy, life, love, and bliss. That's how you have to love. Of course, it cost her her marriage eventually, but I think she used me to get out of that marriage, to get the energy and to lose the fear, just like others have done. Lila used me to get out of her relationship with her husband of 18 years. I was there, and she used me to build the energy in order to get out of that relationship. Not that I felt used. It felt right. It felt correct that she was in relationship with me for that purpose, to escape. But the enlightenment experience can be shattering. The first one I had in 95 was with Robert. And it's when I was waking up in the morning. I went from a dream to all of a sudden being awake and having the world there. And I felt I was neither of these things. So I played with it. And in this state, I was able to go back and forth between sleeping awareness and awakening awareness, and see that what I was did not change, that these states of consciousness came to me like a cloud bank coming to a mountain, or a fog bank from the seashore, and then covering and washing you, and you get embedded in the fog, and you feel like you're the fog. That's how waking consciousness and sleep consciousness came to me, as states that washed over me, and I was inundated in it. But I realized I was no longer of it. And that was the experience I had with Robert. I didn't think the world was real at all. All the concepts were gone. When the concepts were gone, the experience of the world flowed. It was no longer had the solidity that concepts lent it, like the idea of a chair. I didn't see chairs anymore. I just saw observables with no meaning. Didn't know what the chair was for. I didn't know what wood was for, etc. You just don't know anymore. And it's so blissfully happy not knowing anything, to have the mind not bother you, not trouble you, not tell you what to do, what's to be done next, to plan your day. I even got to the point where I felt scared because I didn't feel like I existed anymore. So who was the one that was taking care of the body? And I called Robert up. He had moved to Sedona, and said, Robert, I'm afraid I don't exist. And he just laughed a little. He says, of course you exist. You're talking to me, aren't you? Which is in 100% contrast of his talks he gave every day, where he'd say to people, you don't exist. Your body doesn't exist. The world is just an illusion. But practically, in the practical sense, even though that's the overview you discover in an enlightenment experience, at the same time you have to live as a human in the mundane world. And it's the disparity between the existence in the mundane world and your existence in the spiritual world of no mind, of energies and bliss, that is really hard to reconcile. Right, Janine? Right, Angela? Are there any questions?
Hello, Ed.
Hi, Mark.
I don't have any questions, but I would just like to state that I've been finding the teachings extremely helpful, and recently the intensity of the bliss and the that I feel has been greatly amplified to the point, and it feels correct and it feels natural. And all the things you talked about today, I've been feeling. I've been thinking, yeah, that's it. He's talking about me, what I'm experiencing right now. And also when I read Robert now, it makes,
Yes.
I understand finer points that I kind of couldn't relate to before.
Yes.
So, and while you were giving your talk, the magnitude of the absolute that I was feeling was like a tidal wave.
Yes.
Tidal wave of bliss and like spaciousness, and it's the nothingness that is the everythingness.
Yes.
Yes. So I am feeling it. Thank you. And I think my challenge, as you say, is to integrate the two, the mundane life with the blissful connection to the absolute.
Good for you. Keep it up. Keep it up. Any other questions? Statements. Meaningless sentences. Random bullshit. Kim, over your left shoulder is Angela, your neighbors. I don't know what town you live in the Netherlands, but your neighbors. Say hello to Angela. Oh, that was full-hearted. Anybody else have anything to say? No? Is there anybody want me to talk about something? Stories about Robert. Stories about Deeya. Stories about Janet. Or I can make up some stories about Kim. Just make them up. Or about Spencer. I could just make up stories about Spencer. Saying he's really a mob boss out of the New England area. He's into human trafficking and drug dealing. Does that fit, Spencer?
No, I'm just a very boring person, so.
Enrique, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ed. Spent the whole last week at that ashram that I usually go. Got back today.
Where was it?
I go to an ashram about 3 hours away from Bogota, in a little town. So it's a very peaceful and lovely place.
What's the
and
little
I've been
town's
feeling
name?
great. Villa de Leyva.
I would never remember that. Good seeing you.
And yes, overall, yeah, lots of energy flowing around, getting stronger by the day. And just overall, just feeling great.
Good. Good for you. Live long and prosper. And I'll give you this little.
I'm gonna live over 100 years. I know that, so still have some time to work on that.
At least. Okay. Gallery. Angela, can we get a few words out of you? Tell us about your struggle today, your up and down nature.
Okay. Yeah. For the last days, I'm going quite often through hell because I'm more and more pulled back into the mundane, and I'm trying not to, which means that I end up fighting the mind with the mind and feeling like I'm choking myself and trying to surrender and not being so completely imprisoned by this battle that there's no I just cannot find a way to surrender. And now for the last days, every day, this is getting worse. And today was really worse. It was the whole day was just this and fear, sadness, even depression.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has
So,
there been any up times in the last couple of days?
yeah, I forgot them.
What were they like?
Yeah. I had many moments where I felt that God was ascending, and it was really strong. I just sometimes I was sort of asking for it, and that very second I just felt a huge light power through my head all the way down to my body. And sometimes it was just there, and then there was nothing else.
I'm trying to teach Angela to speak in complete sentences rather than sentence fragments about her experience so that she can pass it on to her students when she's teachers. We have a great deal of fun. What?
I'm hopeless. I'm hopeless.
Far from it.
I'm getting more and more stupid these days. So.
That's good. That's a good sign. Letting go of the concepts. Good job. Janine, do you have anything to say?
This is the first time using this, so I'm not sure how it goes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm very grateful to be here. There's so much love in this group. It's just an overwhelming light bath going on, a bathing of soul. And I'm really grateful to share the space with so much love here and such a bright peace, beautiful joy that is emitting through everyone. So thank you for having this. I'm really grateful. And I can relate to Angela because for many years I've been in a place where there's nonstop noise and nonstop chaos and resistance and fear and rage and frustration have been my teachers. And I was not a very good student. And I still struggle every day. So, but I've learned a lot, and I enjoy the simpleness of acceptance of it being part of my reality. And there's been moments where I've had to go away and regather my strength, but I realize that it's a futile, the fighting is a futile thing, because it's actually a teacher. It's a great teacher. And I just give gratitude to it, and it brings me more love. I don't know how, but I guess you have to be crushed. Like, I know, like what Ed was saying, you have to be crushed. You want to be, and you ask for more, because the fragrance that comes through you is so beautiful, and you don't even care anymore if you are crushed or not. You just want to be in that love more, and somehow it brings you to places that hardly anyone can experience, because it takes courage. It takes fierce love. So, Angela, you're not alone. I totally honor and appreciate hearing and seeing you. And Ed, I love you so much, and love you all. And I'm very grateful to be here.
Good for you. We love you too.
Thank you.
It's all about love. It's so much more powerful and fast compared with self-inquiry, especially the way Robert taught self-inquiry, is to ask, who am I? And then think of nothing and wait for a response to come. That's so intellectual. That's so much in the head. And that's not how he got to awakening himself. It came to him spontaneously. And when it came to me, it was similar to the experience that he describes of being filled with light and power, and it expands upwards through the head and fills the universe. I didn't feel it filling the universe because I stayed in my body. But it was such a powerful experience. It was like Krishna exposing himself to Arjuna, to all of his majesty. The life force majesty is unbounded power, unbounded light, and like an electricity that keeps flowing and changing. And after that, your concepts go and the world becomes less solid. It flows from moment to moment, just like your mind flows from subject to subject. The world begins to have that quality of fluidity and of constant changing. So you never take anything too seriously, and you become more of an observer, just watching the changes, like watching a kaleidoscope, the different patterns of color. It becomes the same sort of thing. Everything is so interesting, and you're filled with bliss, you're filled with energies, you're filled with compassion and love and freedom. And you're just watching all of this changing, and it's so giving of happiness to be able to just sit down in the middle of the sandbox and watching the sand blow around in the various forms. Just being still in a chair or in a coffee shop and watching people come and go, and states of your mind come and go, thoughts come and go, love come and go or intensify and then flicker. Nothing is the same. It's always flowing. And you get used to the flowing. And when the contraction comes back, taking you back into the normal world, the mundane world, where everything is sort of settled and law and order, and is very much Dutch, where everything is planned. Everything is set out. Stickers are everywhere, labeling everything. And the weather is shitty. But when that stops, it's just flowing, 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 and happiness and joy. And then your mind wants to take you back to the security of knowing, what is this happening to me? What's going on? And it takes you back into the mundane world, or somebody in the mundane world keeps pestering you, trying to drag you back into their world. And you just want to kill that person. Anybody else? I love you all. Let's listen to chanting music for about 10 or 15 minutes.